Peace, peace, peace. We about to get right into it. I'll give you guys a few seconds to get in, and then we are going to start. Peace, 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 peace. I know the view's been low lately with all the nonsense and the ignorance that I have to deal with people, but we are still in here, and we're about to get the information out to those that seek it, right? Seeking ye shall find, knocking the door shall be open. Everybody that is in tune with information will be privy to it. So let me get me a song real quick. I'm going to play for you guys. And then we're going to get going.
That bitch up, Mike.
Yeah. Give everybody a second to get in. We're going to get right to the juice, y'all. Right to it. Important information you do not want to miss.
Slavery was a long time ago. How? Same motherfuckers still here right now. Colonized on our land, they ahead of us. Changed our name so much they scared of us. Children of the sun, y'all don't compare to us. Pale-faced people, this ain't y'all area. Talking about America. Pale-faced people, this ain't y'all area. Even on the playing field, bitch, I'm darn. How you a victim, bitch, you a Karen. Cognitive dissonance, you don't need sperm. You got white privilege, so you don't need sperm. Looking at my homeland, man, I can't believe her. Colonized came here, they ain't never leave her. Indians ain't die off cause we here. You ain't gotta lie, just say you won't be here. How you American but not indigenous? 400 years still ain't get rid of us. All Europeans and naturalized citizens. Made all the Indians niggas on the census. 1492 we was on the fences. Civil rights movement, we was so defensive. Black Wall Street, whites got so offended. Common law rights gave us amendments. Thank God don't speak truth, that's alright. First slave 1619 was all white. 1200 wasn't no continent, all white. Europe named after a black woman, alright. Grafted it come from us, do your research. Go within, quit listening to the teacher. And the new got voice coming out the speaker. Cut off trees, gonna made us weaker. Really they foreigner, the shit gets deeper. Whites don't know where whites come from either. I'm Aborigine, we come from the ether. Ruling over us in our land, that's evil. Being colonized right now, black people. Prisoner of war, that's why it ain't equal. Wake up everybody, don't be no sheeple. Freedom ain't free, really freedom is illegal. And we can't get mad at this. Whites act like we can't see their advantages. Privileges real, they working in management. Low down, dirty, but they calling us savage. They want you to think they above us. All white people are part-time judges. I ain't no racist, but I ain't no sucker. I ain't no African, but they my brothers. Been lied to, I got built up anger. You built everything, still waiting on the savior. Don't call yourself black, please do me that favor. Black tourmaline will protect you from a hater. Listening to your oppressors is dangerous. Gave us a Bible and stole our nation. Said we couldn't read what we didn't know the language. Kept us on paper because we didn't see the danger. American Indian, keep the religion. Skin copper color look just like a penny. Wanted our land and you called us stingy. Ain't no Democrats there to gotta pay attention. We got ancestors, but the papers is missing. Kings and queens, we just can't remember. Remember who you are, just like Simba. Now they got a vax, we don't want that in us. George Washington is the ninth president, look it up. United States only 10 square blocks, look it up. White people really the minorities, look it up. Courtrooms don't got authorities, look it up. You want me, say stop governing me. Gave me a straw man, it's really not me. Why you don't keep it 100 with me? Why Trayvon killers still walk around free? Made this song for the truth, don't hate it. History was told in reverse, I've stated. Please still impress somebody, gotta say it. Take it out of school, that's the reason I made it. History, it's his story. History, it's his story. History, that's his story. History, it's his story. It ain't my story. It ain't my story. History, it's his story. It's his story. Probably ain't your story. History, it's his story. It's his story.
All right. Y'all know we about to get to the juice. We about to get to the juice. Whoever comes in will get a treat of some information. I know I was looking into a few other things, and this tribe came up. So when I did a little research, I'm looking like, this must be the tribe that they excluded when it was the 6 nations before they came to the 5 nations, huh? Well, we're going to figure it out. Let's get to this Constitution. We're going to get into the Constitution and the bylaws of the Caddo Indian tribe of Oklahoma. The Caddo Indian Tribe of Oklahoma. Let's start with the preamble.
Constitution and Bylaws of the Caddo Indian Tribe of Oklahoma. Preamble. We, the Caddo Indians of Oklahoma, in order to promote our common welfare and to secure for ourselves and our descendants the rights, powers, and privileges guaranteed to us by the treaties,
The descendants.
the Constitution and the statutes of the United States, which were initially set forth in the Constitution and Bylaws ratified by the tribe on January 17th, 1938, to adopt this Constitution for the Caddo Indians of Oklahoma. Both the 1938 governing document and this Constitution are pursuant to the Oklahoma Indian Welfare Act of 1936, 49 Stat. 1967. Any tribal legislation enacted under the previous Constitution shall remain in effect to the extent it is not in conflict with this Constitution. Article I. Definition of terms. Section 1. The Caddo Indian Tribe of Oklahoma shall be the name of this organization. The words Indian Tribe as used in this document shall have the same meaning as the Caddo Indian Tribe of Oklahoma. Sector 2. Caddo tribal active membership shall be the governing body of the tribe, composed of all enrolled members at least 18 years of age or over, who have registered to vote. They are hereafter referred to as the membership in this document. Sector 3.
Here they go.
Caddo Tribal Council shall be a representative body composed of chairman, vice chairman, secretary, treasurer, and district representatives, empowered to act on those matters outlined in Article V. Article 2. Purpose. The purpose of this organization shall be, Section 1.
Organization.
To define, establish, and safeguard the rights, powers, and privileges of the tribe and its members and to govern the affairs of the tribe. Sector 2. To promote the economic, cultural, educational, and health status of its members and to preserve and protect the heritage and traditions of the tribe, cooperating with the government of the United States and of the state of Oklahoma to accomplish these purposes. Sector 3. To promote the welfare of the tribe and its members by all lawful means. Article 3. Tribal membership. The membership of the Caddo Tribe of Oklahoma shall be, Section 1. All persons of Caddo Indian blood who received an allotment of land as members of the Caddo Indian tribe shall be hereby declared full blood, 4/4, members of the tribe for the purpose of computing eligibility of fair descendants for membership. Sector 2. All living lineal descendants of allottees eligible for membership under the provisions of Section 1 of this article on or before the date of adoption of this Constitution, at least one of whose parents is a member of the Caddo Indian tribe. I-3 * all persons of at least 1/8 degree Caddo Indian blood as defined by and derived from Section 1, after the date of the adoption of this Constitution to a member of the tribe, except those persons otherwise entitled to enrollment who elect to be enrolled in another tribe. Sector 4. Those persons who are adopted into the tribe in accordance with rules prescribed by the Tribal Council, with approval of the membership, and consistent with United States law. Sector 5. Those persons who were eligible for membership in the Caddo Tribe of Oklahoma under the previous Constitution of January 17, 1938, as amended, who were recognized as members shall continue to be members without further test of eligibility until their deaths or voluntary relinquishment of membership, provided, however, that these persons shall submit an official enrollment application. Sector 6. Those persons who are eligible for enrollment under the preceding sections of this article who elect to be enrolled, except those persons who have received a share of land or money by virtue of having been listed on an approved membership roll of another tribe. Sector 7. All qualified Caddo membership applicants shall submit a completed official enrollment application. Applications for membership must be supported by birth certificates or authenticated copies thereof or other records recognized by state or federal recorders, as required by the circumstances of each application. All evidence will be retained by the Caddo Indian tribe to support the record. Tribal membership shall become effective upon an affirmative vote of a majority of the tribal council.
Statehood.
Any rejected applicants may appeal to the membership. Article 4 Governing Body 0 The Caddo Tribe of Oklahoma shall be represented by a tribal council. Section 1. Composition. The tribal council shall consist of 4 officers elected at large, tribal chairman, vice chairman, secretary, treasurer, and at least 4, but no more than 15 district representatives who shall be elected by districts. Sector 2. Apportionment. District representatives shall represent voting districts containing substantially equal numbers of members in keeping with the one man, one vote concept. Adjustments needed to maintain apportionment shall be made pursuant to Article V, Section 1 of this Constitution. Powers of the Tribal Council. For the first election under this Constitution, the 4 voting districts shall be 1. Anadarko, 2. Binger, 3. Fort Cobb, 4. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, as specifically defined by the Superintendent of the Anadarko Agency with consultation and approval by the Executive Committee and in accordance with Article 7. Sector 3. Terms of office. The term of office of a member of the Tribal Council shall be for a period of 2 years or until a successor is duly elected and installed in office except for the first election held under this Constitution. At the first election, the tribal chairman and treasurer and the district representatives of Oklahoma City and Binger shall serve 2 years. The vice chairman, secretary, and the district representatives from Anadarko and Fort Cobb shall serve 1 year. Thereafter, all terms will be 2 years. The tribal chairman shall be eligible to be elected to serve 3 consecutive terms. At the completion of his 3rd consecutive term of office, he shall not be eligible for re-election or appointment to fill a vacancy on the council until a period of 2 years has elapsed. In each of the above instances, the term of office shall be for the specified time, unless the incumbent is earlier removed or recalled, dies, or resigns.
Now, you see how they came into statehood with the Constitution that went under the state to make them one of the tribes that would be recognized. They decided to be recognized. It took a while, 1900s. So we're going to take you back so you guys can get some information on the history and the ethnology of the Caddo tribe. So let's get into that. Let's move it slow. All right, we're going to start here with the introduction, obviously. Pardon me, guys. Gives good information. Let's start here.
Source material on the history and ethnology of the Caddo Indians by John R. Swanren. Introduction. In a wide area beyond the Mississippi River within the boundaries of the great states of Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas,
Can you guys hear
which
good?
has been served in foreign languages and largely buried in long unfrequented or confounded, and the merest shreds of their ancient culture preserved. The attention of students was naturally drawn away to tribes still retaining their early usages and ceremonials in some vigor.
It says, right, the tribes have been uprooted from their historic seats. When you hear seats, that means what? The government, their historic government, broken up, their separate rites, the rites, and their dialects, extinguished or confounded. Removing the tongue. We read that earlier in the first build I did on this. It talked about them changing and removing of their tongue, right? And the merest shreds of their ancient culture. Ancient culture means it was ancient for this land that was preserved. All right, let's go. Here we go with this.
Sorge, their historic seeds. When I undertook to assemble materials from the original sources bearing on the tribes of the lower Mississippi, have a large body of material on the northern representatives of the Caddo stock, but the little that has been done on Caddo proper shows clearly that, except in the matter of language, not much bearing upon the real aboriginal lives of these people may be expected through direct studies. It is hoped that Dr. Lesser and Dr. Weltfish will be enabled to complete the investigations on the Caddo languages they have so well begun. In the present work I have undertaken to bring together the principal materials relating to these Indians from Spanish and
I
French
thought
sources.
Indians weren't aboriginals.
For the translation and publication of them we are particularly indebted to the Texas State Historical Society and the students of the University of Texas, to Prof. Herbert E. Bolton, now librarian of the Bancroft Library in San Francisco, Dr. Carlos E. Castefida, Latin American librarian at the University of Texas, the Quivira Society, Mr. Frederick M. Shabu, Miss Maddie Austin Hatcher, and others who have brought these invaluable documents regarding well-nigh forgotten people to the attention of historians and ethnologists. The Caddo Indians are noteworthy in many ways.
Oh, they wanted to
They have
forget
given their name to one of the large lakes of northwestern Louisiana and a parish in that state, and contributed many place names to the region which they formerly inhabited. Their name has also been extended to one of the principal linguistic families of North America. To the Western Caddo we owe the name of the largest state of our Union. Although not the first Texas tribe to appear in history, they made the greatest impression upon the explorers who visited the territory now occupied by it, so that finally, as just noted, the name which had become fixed to them was transferred to the Spanish, and later Mexican, province, and to the Republic and state, which in turn succeeded. Fate decreed that the lands of the Caddo tribes should lie in the debated region between French and Spanish claims, and later between the possessions of the United States and those of Spain, and the Republic of Mexico, whose authority succeeded to that of Spain. Hence, they constituted a factor in the history of the Southwest of peculiar significance. Moreover, what we know of Aboriginal Caddo culture, particularly the excellence of Caddo pottery, and its developed social and ceremonial organizations, and the influence exerted by them upon the surrounding peoples, make the Caddo a center of interest in their own right. There can be little doubt that they played a part in the history of the area before white contact, even more important than their role after the advent of Europeans. In the subjoined material there are but few original notes, the greater part, as the title implies, being a compilation from the productions of earlier writers, including mainly the letters and reports of the missionaries Francisco Quisafías de Jesus Maria, Francisco Hidalgo, Isidro Felix de Espinosa, and Gaspar José de Solis. The Historia and Memorias of Juan Agustin Morphy, and the relation of La Salle's companion, Henry Joutel. The translations from Joutel are my own. Those from Quisafías, Hidalgo, and Espinosa are mainly the ones made by Miss Hatcher, those from Solis are mainly those of Miss Gress, while those from Morphy's Memorias are essentially reproductions of the translations printed by Shabu, but I have found it necessary to introduce certain alterations, and in one or two cases these are extensive. For the historical sections I have drawn upon numerous authors, early and late. I am particularly indebted to Dr. Castafida for his assistance on many occasions and particularly in securing a photocopy of the letter and report of Fray Francisco Casafias. I am indebted to my friend, the late David I. Bushnell, Jr., for his interest and suggestions and for the use of the sketch by Eastman which constitutes Plate 15. After most of the above was in type, Dr. Parsons' memoir made its appearance, its modest title, Notes on the Caddo, undoubtedly concealing the fact that it contains about all the ethnological material that may be expected from the remnants of the many tribes now covered by the name Caddo. Of course, one can never say that one has secured absolutely A/Z such information, but it may be confidently assumed that this is as perfect a sample of these fragmentary materials as will ever be recovered. That which remains will be acculturation processes rather than the restoration of what we are pleased to call, but never is, primitive. Comparison of this with the insight into the customs and usages of the tribe furnished by the missionaries is interesting as showing in what direction and to what extent cultural losses have taken place. Although there are preserved also data from the earlier time which were entirely missed by them. As might have been anticipated, the ancient tribal cult connected with the temples has disappeared along with those collective functions such as are assumed by our departments of state and war. The ghost dance and peyote cults have acted powerfully to affect the former and immersion in white institutions the latter. What have survived are the minor social relations between individuals and families, much of the kinship terminology, customs connected with naming and marriage, with the relations brought about by marriage, some of the burial customs, and customs connected with medical practices and witchcraft. Notes regarding certain of these will appear below under the separate heads. Designations. The name Caddo is applied collectively to a people now regarded as a single tribe, but which, when they were first known to Europeans, consisted of something like 25 tribes forming 3 or more confederated groups besides some units that held themselves entirely separate. The largest confederation was in eastern Texas in the present counties of Nacogdoches, Rusk, Cherokee, and Houston. They called themselves Hassanai, a word which appears in the historical narratives as Asina, Asoni, Asina, Sines, etc., but since these tribes were on terms of closest intimacy and were constantly calling one another friends, or allies, the Spaniards early heard the native term meaning friends used and came to apply it to them. This word appears in the forms F. centavas, Texias, Tejas, Tigias, Tisas, Tchin, Et, and hence these Indians were called Texas Indians, and the word was subsequently applied to the province of Texas and taken over by the American colonists as that of the Republic and later state of Texas. The at in this word was not, however, pronounced by the Spaniards as it is in English. Sometimes it was made equivalent to Spanish J, which resembles German CH, but I have usually found that in the early Spanish narratives it is employed for the English SH, for which the Spanish language provides no specific sign. This fact is often indicated by synonyms which use S or CH, just as we find in the present instance. I, therefore, believe that the original pronunciation of Texas was Taches, although, as Bolton suggests, it may have been Taches. It was not a specific term for the Hassanai but became such by accident. Casafias says, I notice that this name Tejas includes all the friendly tribes. The name is common to all of them, even though their language may be different.
The friendly tribes, huh?
Since this name is a general term, it must be used for no other reason than to indicate the long-standing friendship which they entertain towards each other. And, therefore, among all these tribes Tigias means friends. Casafias, 1927, p. 286. And so Lis, we crossed the San Pedro River and afterwards came to a village that was very large and thickly settled with the Tejas Indians. This name comes from the word Teque, which in our language means friend, and so Tejas Indians is the same as saying friendly Indians. So Lis, 1931, p. 60. Bolton considers the terms Texas and Hassanai at some length. The testimony of the sources warrants the conclusion that before the coming of the Spaniards the word Texas, variously spelled by the early writers, had wide currency among the tribes of eastern Texas and perhaps over a large area, that its usual meaning was friends, or, more technically, allies, and that it was used by the tribes about the early missions, at least, to whom especially it later became attached as a group name, to designate a large number of tribes who were customarily allied against the Apaches. In this sense, the Texas included tribes who spoke different languages and who were as widely separated as the Red River and the Rio Grande. It seems that the Neches Angelina tribes designated did not apply the term restrictively to themselves as a name, but that they did use it in a very untechnical way as a form of greeting, like hello, friend, with which they even saluted Spaniards after their advent. The name Texas has been variously applied by writers, but it was most commonly used by the Spaniards, from whom the French and the English borrowed it, to designate those tribes of the upper Neches and the Angelina valleys, and this in spite of their knowing full well that among the natives the word had a wider application that has been indicated. There are many variations from this usage in Spanish writings, it is true, but this, nevertheless, is the ordinary one.
I want to show y'all a little bit about these red bones, right? These red bones are the ones that were moving out and going in. These were the Caddo Indian tribes. They actually migrated, as we read earlier, if you guys recall. So let's check this out real quick.
Neither white nor black, as well as I can find out. But this is a isolated, multi-generational mixed group of people. So they were kind of able to find this safe haven and define themselves freely in a place that didn't require you to be defined. Hi, I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel. I've been delving into American identity.
Keeping in mind, don't get misconstrued with the video. I want you to see some of this information that she has on here. But when it comes to it, remember that when they moved to Texas, Texas is by the borders of Mexico, all being in the same areas. Around that time, they were just dispersing things and sanctioning off and saying what belongs to who and this, and that. You know, the fortitude of lies. But either way, when it comes to it, they were the people that moved when they migrated to Texas. Obviously, they're going to start mixing with the lighter skin. So we're going to get some Melungeons, so on and so forth. So keep that in mind as she speaks on this. All right, let's go.
And family stories and hidden history, and definitely touching on the Melungeon side of things. I started out researching Creole history, and I believe my mom's grandmother was Creole from Louisiana, but that's kind of led me down the path of researching Melungeon roots and Redbone roots, and they're all kind of intersecting someplace. And, you know, being a New Yorker trying to dig into records from Louisiana and understand who my family really was, it's convoluted. And I tell this story frequently on this channel because I think it's just so indicative of this issue of showing up to research your family in a location that you're not familiar with, and you don't really know how things are there. And so I went to Louisiana for the first time a couple of years ago to meet family and start the research and just get boots on the ground, you know, because I've been researching from afar. And one of the cousins from the side of the family met with me. And as soon as he met me, he told me I was a redbone. You know, I was like, I know the band. I don't think I know what you're saying, though. And honestly, he could not have been more right. So we're going to talk about Redbones today. Who were the Redbones? Who are the Redbones? Where did the Redbones come from? But before we get started on that, I want to just thank so many of you for being a part of the channel. It's been my first full year on YouTube, which is amazing. I'm having so much fun with you. I want to say thank you to those who watch and share and comment and create this great community in the comment section. I'm learning so much from you. And also want to thank the incredibly generous people who've been buying me coffees. I am not kidding. People are sending me coffees like this guy right here, just picked him up.
That's right.
Actually, I'm trying lattes for the first time and I kind of like them. But no, they're not mailing these to me, but they're donating through a link that's called Buy Me a Coffee, essentially. And I
definitely go and I sit and I edit or I read or I brainstorm at the coffee shop. Sometimes you just need to like kind of get out of your head and get in a new location. I want to jump right in. Let's talk about the red bones. Now, one of the things I've seen in comments when I've mentioned red bone in other videos are people talking about this cultural understanding of what red bone has meant in the Black community. That's not what I'm talking about today. So red bone, and there's also like high yellow, yellow bone. These are ways that folks in the Black community kind of talk about lighter skin members or people that have like just more of a yellow hue to their skin or a red hue. And that's a common thing, especially in the South. But actually, red bone is a specific ethnic group from Louisiana and parts of Texas. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with that other definition, but it kind of does. And we're going to get to that. There's this ambiguity
Not a
of
kind
who's a
of.
red bone.
It does.
And
Let,
it's
hold
been
on. Let's
ambiguous
stop
for a
this real
long
quick.
time. There is a
Just to
letter.
clarify. Now, you know that whenever it comes to anything, they're going to try to make it seem like, oh, you know, this is just something that they've come up with. They don't have anything that has to actually have a fact of that, which isn't true, because we know for sure that it does have something to do with that, right? And if it has something to do with that, it's coming from us, the original people, right? The blending of what she may believe is what, oh, you know, they took it from this or that. No, no, no. Get out of your white lies and get the truth. So just keep that in mind. I do have information on the red tribe. Let me read it, actually, what it says. Hold on. Let me read it. What is the red? Actually, I'll get to it. I don't want to hold you guys up. Let's keep this going because this is only about, we got about 12 more minutes of this video.
From 1893, written by a man named Albert Rigmaven, and he was treasurer. And he was writing back to a man named McDonald Furman. This was a man who was conducting private ethnological research, and he's exchanging letters, inquiring about the red bones. He's like, I need to know who these people are. What can you tell me? What was interesting about the letter, before I read it, is he's writing to him in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Lake Charles, Louisiana, a lot of red bones there, and actually showed up as one of my mom's DNA communities, Lake Charles. And I was really surprised by that. So this is kind of creating context for me as I'm researching. So here's what he wrote. He wrote, Dear Sir, in reply to your letter of April 22nd, I will say I am unable to tell you how the name Redbone originated for the people called Redbones. And I think the Negroes were the first to give them that name, as they, the Negroes, have no use or love for them, and they do not like the Negroes any better. I suppose you know the kind of people called Redbones. They are neither.
Let me read this real quick. I pulled it up real quick. I had to go to my TikTok. I'll read this part. It says red is simple or primary color, but of several different shades or hues, as scarlet, crimson, vermilion, orange red, and we say red color, red cloth, real flame, red eyes, red cheeks, red lead, red book. I don't even want to get into the red book story, but red book. The name given to a book containing the names of all persons in the service of the state. A red book containing names of all persons in the service of the state, all agents, all agents. Listen, red book of the exchequer. It says an ancient English record or a manuscript that is containing various treaties. Listen, red book of the exchequer. An ancient English record or manuscript containing various treaties relating to the times before the conquest, containing various treaties relating to the times before the conquest. So if they had treaties before the conquest, what does that tell you? Okay. It says red men. It says red people, red children, the Aboriginals of America, red men, red people, red children, the Aboriginals of America as distinguished from the white, the Aboriginals of America as distinguished from the white. Keep that in mind. Let's go.
White nor black, as well as I can find out. The oldest ones came from South Carolina many years ago. There are a great many of them in this parish, and in Rapids and Vernon Parish, and some other parishes in the state of Louisiana, and a good many in Texas, too. Some of these people are as good citizens as anybody, and some are rascally and treacherous, but you will find that among any people. So this treasurer for the parish is writing back. He's saying, hey, okay, you're doing research on the red bones. Here are the families that we know to be red bones. And he gives a list. Are you ready for them? Ashworth, Goins, this is a name in my family tree. Perkins,
really? Perkins?
Drake,
Really?
name also in my family tree.
Come on, y'all, listen to these.
Boozer, Sweet or Sweat,
Mm-hmm.
Buxton, Doyle or Dial, Johnson, and Exclamant.
Johnson.
These people keep pretty well together and marry amongst themselves mostly, but
More.
occasionally a
Hold
white
on,
man
hold on,
or a
hold on.
white
Let me
woman
take it
marries
back. Hold on.
among them, he says, but if
Let
they
me go
do,
back
it's
to
generally a
6
low class of
seconds.
white among them, he says, but if they do, these people keep pretty well together. Drake,
I want y'all
name
to see
also
this.
in my family tree. Boozer, Sweet or Sweat, Buxton, Doyle or Dial, Johnson,
Oh,
and
Johnson.
Exclamant.
1830, a large group of red bones. I just read to you who the red bones are. It says the Aboriginal red children, red bones, the red children, all of those. Pay attention. The red bones settle on the west side of the Sabine River in what is today Newton County, Texas. Now we read earlier, if you guys recall, we were talking about the Caddo tribe that actually traveled and they went to Texas, coming and leaving from the Mississippi, Louisiana area, right? Going into that area, right? And then moving over into Oklahoma as well. They became federally recognized in the 1900s, but before that, they were still a solid nation. Now, listen to some more of these names. Some of the family names in the areas were, now listen to these names and you tell me if you know these are Aboriginal names. Adams, Bass, Bennett, Bond, Brack, Brown. These people are hilarious. Clark, Coleman, Cole, Collins, Davis, Brody, Hall, Harper, Hart, James, Johnson, Knight, Lee, Lewis, Martin, Maddox, Moore. Remember, I showed you guys a couple of weeks ago, we looked on the old map and it showed you Moorestown. And it was in that same area, right? You guys connecting that dot, right? I don't have to show you again. Nash, Page, Parker, Perkins, Powell, Smith, Stringer, Taylor, Thompson, Weeks, West, White, Willis, Williams, Woods, Wright, and Young, right? April 1830, relations between the Texans and New Mexico reached a new low when Mexico forbid further immigration into Texas. Listen, Mexico, listen, I want you guys to hear the importance of this. Mexico forbid further immigration into Texas by settlers from the United States. How could they be immigrating into Texas from Mexico if it was part of the states? Make it make sense, because why? It is a republic. From one state, when you move and journey from one state to the next, you have then immigrated to a different Republican state. Keep that in mind. 1831, William Ashford had immigrated from Louisiana, and many friends and relatives, red bone familiars, followed him. Plenty of the families, all of these red bones followed him from Louisiana. We were just talking about this. Also, some of the families traveled from, that were part of the Caddo tribe from Mississippi, right? The Ashworths immigrated to Louisiana from South Carolina, some moving from South Carolina. In 1799, during the revolution against Mexico, William and Abner Ashford paid Gibson Perkins, I know that's one of my grandfather's last name, definitely indigenous, and Elijah Thomas, to take their places in the Texas Army. The Ashworths were classified as free blacks. Hold on, free blacks, and were land and slave owners, not free blacks and land and slave owners, but I thought the blacks were the slaves. How could they possibly be free blacks, not free blacks, and they were land and slave owners? If they were land and slave owners, they were what? They were the owners of the land. Obviously, they held slaves that were what? The indentured servitude, the Slavs that came over. This is early 1799. So we're talking about the servitude that they were using and the services that they were using on the nations, right? All right, let's go. I'm going to continue on. I'll read this part one more time. The Ashworths immigrated to Louisiana from South Carolina to 1799. During the Revolution against Mexico, William and Abner Ashford paid Gibson Perkins and Elijah Thomas to take their places in the Texas Army. The Ashfords were classified as free blacks and were land and slave owners. Let's go.
These people keep pretty well together and marry amongst themselves mostly, but occasionally a white man or a white woman marries among them, he says, but if they do, it's generally a low class of white people.
Low class.
It is a
There's no
very
high
unpleasant
class.
situation to live about these people. And for this reason, they are not looked on as being Negroes, Indians, nor white people. And as this is white people's country, the white people don't put themselves on equality socially with any other people except white people. Although some of these people are perfect gentlemen and ladies and well educated, I think they get along exceedingly well and peaceably, considering all of these drawbacks I've given you as near to the facts. I am trusting will give you the desired information. Yours truly, A. Rig Maiden. This letter is incredible. This letter is amazing. Now, does he have a bias? Does he have a perspective? He's filtering information through. Yes, of course he does. But we're getting so much information about how the red bone community was perceived from contemporaries on the outside. Now, we'll need to do a video on looking at how did the red bones see themselves? How did they identify? Now, here's another letter. This is from 1897. So again, this is over 100 years ago.
Important letter.
This group is being discussed as a separate group. So this was to an editor of a paper called the News and Courier. It's about the Goins family. That's what it says. Among that isolated and mixed breed people of Privateer Township, who are classed as colored, but should properly be known as red bones, is found the name Goins, the founder of this family. So I have been told was a, quote, yellow man whose wife was a mixed breed Indian. And he goes on to talk about one of the Goins family members. And he says, quote, his features are copper colored skin and show the presence of Indian blood in his veins. Another descendant of the Goins couple is Tom Gibbs, pastor of the little church in southeastern Privateer, which is attended by the red bone people. So they have their own community. They have their own church. They're being classified there. He's saying you shouldn't call them colored, and people are saying they're not white, they're not Negro, they're not Indian, they're just their own group. Now, is this a race of people? No, this is not a race, but this is a isolated, multi-generational mixed group of people that are kind of sticking together.
Wow.
And he goes on to say, I might remark that this boy is a member of the Colored Watery Baptist Association.
Dirty.
And he says, I think Gibbs shows his Indian blood. While it would greatly puzzle the ethnologists to determine what percentage of white, Negro, and Indian blood flows through their veins. The name is or was found among that peculiar people, the Croatans of North Carolina, which unique race is believed by historical investigators to be the descendants of Sir Walter Raleigh's famous lost colony. Okay, this is a lot. And again, it's another primary source showing that the red bones are considered their own group. So let's go back in time a little bit now. Let's go to the early 19th century.
Their own group, really?
This was land that defied the rule of nations. It was also known as the neutral ground or the neutral strip. So imagine this vast territory in between Louisiana and Texas. This is a land of swamps, of virgin forests. This land became so hotly disputed between the United States and Spain after the Louisiana Purchase. The United States was saying that we owned all the way to the Rio Grande. Spain is saying no, it ends at the Red River. What happens is they take this section that was disputed, and because neither side would budge, it led to the creation of no man's land, the neutral strip. It was a land that was outside the jurisdiction of either nation.
One more time, let's read this just in case for a reminder. It says Red Book of the Exchequer, an ancient English record or a manuscript containing various treaties relating to the times before the conquest. So these are treaties that were set up around this time, right? Before these people were actually migrating and moving out to be put up under statehood and going into the warship with the state. Because why? You guys remember we read the other day, they were keeping them from trading with the Indians. People were being fined up to thousands of dollars. That's like $100,000 in today's time. They were being fined up to $1,000 for trading with the Indians. So what happened? They started migrating, going to other areas where they could do other things, leaving their properties behind after they've been taken over, assumed, so on and so forth. All right. Once again, and it says the red man, red people, red children. The red men, red people, red children. It says the aboriginals, red men, red people, red children are the aboriginals of America. The aboriginals of America. It doesn't say the Native Americans. It says the aboriginals of America. And it says as distinguished from the white. Distinguished from the whites. That's a big word. When you say distinguished, you know when you hear a person say, "Oh, that's a distinguished gentleman," right? That means of a certain class, right? We're talking about nobles. We're talking about dignitaries. All right, let's go.
This is where the Redbones lived. It wasn't Spanish. It wasn't American.
I don't even know who
And I
this
think
lady is.
it really
I don't even know the
encapsulates
channel. I just
this
seen this on
idea
Redbone.
of the Redbone experience of like, they don't belong in this group. They don't belong in this group. They don't, you know, this land doesn't belong to this nation. It doesn't belong to this nation.
Listen.
It's
This
just
land
kind
don't
of on its
listen.
own.
Part of the trickery.
And I found my family in this land,
I bet
going
you
through
did.
this land a lot, through the records. And I think it was just fascinating to see the Redbone people navigating the world that was often unkind to those who
Navigating
didn't
the
fit
world,
neatly
huh?
into societal norms. And this neutral
Yes.
strip just kind of reflected that in a geographical way. But it was more than just a refuge
Nuts.
for the Redbone people. It actually became a place of smugglers and pirates and illicit activities because remember, no nation was taking ownership or authority over this area. It was kind of a free-for-all.
It was a free for all.
The area was so notorious that President John Quincy Adams himself
free for
once
all, huh?
referred to this area as the back door to the United States.
The back
And
door.
among the most infamous characters to emerge from this period was John Murrell, who was a land pirate. His name was synonymous with lawlessness of the neutral zone. He had a band of outlaws. Now, a lot of those people were actually considered Redbone, but not everybody who was a Redbone was a pirate, obviously. But the neutral zone was also just another place for people to kind of do as they pleased without really any consequences. It was also a corridor for smuggling enslaved people, particularly after the importation of slaves was prohibited in 1808. And a legendary pirate named John Lafitte used the waterways of these two rivers, and he smuggled enslaved people and contraband goods into the United States.
We got real pictures.
And it kind of just further added to this reputation as a place where, like, you know.
Okay, that's enough. I can't take much more of the lies. Okay, but you guys get the gist. You see how they blended this story to talk about the mulattoes or the mulatto race. They blended a lot of this. I did want to play another part. Dang, where is it? They blended a lot of these in so that you would know who you were or the people. Yeah, I'm gonna play it from right here, or the people that you come from. You know, telling you like you heard it. Oh, you know, this was just a desolate place. No one was there, but people had to migrate from there. Make this make sense. People are migrating from an area that no one was at. No man's land. Make it make sense. Let's look at this last 2 or 3 minutes, guys.
From the complexities of racial mixing in early American history. What about the name? So the name itself is a riddle. What does Redbone mean? There are so many explanations for what Redbone means. I have read a ton. I'll tell you just a couple. I'm sure you know some more. Some people believe it just was just because folks had kind of a reddish hue to their skin. Others propose that it was just
Copper,
kind of derogatory term. I've read stuff
mahogany
where it had to do with being in an area with a lot of red clay, and it had something to do with that. And then there was another one. I think it was a
soil that it would
term,
happen.
It looks like it's spelled Red Ebo, but I think it's pronounced Redbone, and it has to do with folks who are mixed. That's basically what it means. So I'd love to delve into that a little bit more, into a side by side of Melungeon to Creole to Redbone. And I think if there was a Venn diagram, we would see that yes, these are distinct communities, but there's a ton of overlap as well. There's a last name that comes up a lot in Redbone.
This is mahogany. Mahogany wood. It's red, brown. Mahogany. Mahogany wood. Right? Mahogany wood is a reddish brown color. So it'll be a redwood. It's a red wood, right? Let's get back to the book. We're not gonna be in here too long. I want you guys to get this information, and I'll be out shortly. Let's go. See if it stopped. Yep, it stopped.
Selves as a name. Word had a wider application that has been indicated. There are many variations from this usage in Spanish writings, it is true, but this, nevertheless, is the ordinary one. As a tribal name, the term was sometimes still further narrowed to apply to a single tribe. When this occurred, to their immediate country. Thus, for the first quarter of a century of Spanish
That's
occupation,
right.
the phrase "the province of Texas" referred only to the country east of the Trinity River, but with the founding of the San Antonio settlements the term was extended westward, more in harmony with its native meaning, to the Medina River, and then gradually to all of the territory included within the present state of Texas. While the name Texas, as used by the tribes in the eastern portion of the state, was thus evidently a broad and indefinite term applied to many and unrelated tribes occupying a wide area, it is clear that the native group name for most of the tribes about the missions in the Neches and Angelina valleys was Hassanai, or Asina. Today the term Hassanai is used by the Caddones on the reservations to include not only the survivors of these Neches Angelina tribes, but also the survivors of the tribes of the Sabina and Red River County. It seems from the sources, however, that in the early days the term was more properly limited to the former group. In strictest usage, indeed, the earliest writers did not include all of these. A study of contemporary evidence shows that at the first contact of Europeans with these tribes and for a long time thereafter, writers quite generally made a distinction between the Hassanai, Asina, Sinis, etc., and the Caddo Caddo group. These confederacies, for such they were in the Indian sense of the term, were separated by a wide stretch of uninhabited territory extending between the upper Angelina and the Red River in the neighborhood of Texarkana. Their separateness of organization was positively affirmed,
Texarkana is
and the
between
details
Texas
of the
and
inner
Arkansas.
constitution of both groups were more or
No,
less
in
fully
Oklahoma. I'm
described,
sorry.
while in their relations with the Europeans they were for nearly a century dealt with as separate units. Nevertheless, because of the present native use of the term and some early testimony that cannot be disregarded, I would not at present assert unreservedly that the term formerly was applied by the natives only to the Neches Angelina group. If, as seems highly probable, this was the case, in order to preserve the native usage we should call these tribes the Hassanai, if not, then the Southern Hassanai. The name Hassanai, like Texas, was sometimes narrowed in its application to one tribe, usually the Haina. But occasionally the notion appears that there was an Hassanai tribe distinct from the Haina. This, however, does not seem to have been the case. As now used by the surviving Hassanai and Caddos, Hassanai means our own folk, or, in another sense, Indians. Bolden, 1908, pp. 250-252. Just as the Haina were sometimes regarded as the Hassanai tribe par excellence, so in the Confederacy on Red River were the Caddo eminent above all the rest. The name is derived from Cuddy, or rather Kayati, Kaida, meaning chief, and Caddo signifies real chiefs.
Real
Strictly,
chiefs.
it was applied to one of a group of 4 bands, 5, if one counts
The
in the
4
Kainio,
original
but was
bands.
first extended in the contracted form Caddo to all of the bands of this group and later to all of the related tribes, including the Hassanai. It is likely that the fact that it prevailed was
ancient
owed as much
tribes.
to the simple character of the word as to the dominant position of the tribe. Since Caddo appeared as the name of a group of languages in Gallatin's classification, Gallatin, 1836, a few pages before his similar use of Pawnee, it was selected by Powell in the form Caddone to designate a linguistic stock which included, besides the Caddo in the broadest sense of the term, the Kike, the Wichita, with the Tawakoni, Waco, and their allies, the Pawnee, and the Arikara. The Ade were at first supposed to constitute a distinct family called Adesan, but very shortly the connection of their language with Caddo was demonstrated by Dr. A.S. Gatschet. Powell, 1891, pages 45 to 46, 58 to 62. In the present study I shall use Cadone as the name of the stock, Caddo to cover all the southern tribes, the remnants of which are now classed under that term, and Caddo Haydaco for the group of 4 tribes on Red River, which included the Caddo Haydaco proper.
The Caddo tribe. All of the southern tribes, as I just told you, Mississippi, Louisiana, North Carolina, all the ones that actually migrated when these people were invading.
The Nasone, Upper Nakatosh, and Nanitsaho. When I wish to designate the original Caddo Haydaco, I will call it the Caddo Haydaco tribe or town. Following are names applied to the Caddo by various tribes: Arapaho, Tanibainan, Tanibainanina, Tanibitha, Muni. Cheyenne, Odiazaitnayo, Muni, Utayasita, Tenkate, Yutsta, Gatschet. Choctaw, Ka-L6X La TCE, Tenkate. Comanche, Attawits, Tenkate, Wituan, Gatschet. Creek, Kulhilitsi, Grayson. Kiowa.
Y'all hear these names, right? So the Cheyenne, what a Atas, Itza Mule, which was a Mooney. The Utah Sita, Tenkate, Utah Sita, Getchet. Then the Choctaw, the Kalox Hetek, Tenkate, the Comanche, the Attawits, Tenkate, Witting, Getchet. Sounds German, don't it? Greek, Kalhuatzi, Graysons, the Kiowa, Mayaspi Mooney. I hope I'm saying it right. Mosey Tenkati. He may be pronouncing it better than me. I'm going to say them and see how it sounds, but some of it didn't sound too good to me. Omaha, the Pathawachi, Fletcher and Lee Flesh, the Pawnee, the Attawicca, and the Arawakan, the Gatset, the Osage, the Hishi, the La Frenche, the Quapa, the Sadea, La Harpe, Sude, Dorsey, and also the Tonkawa, which is Kala Zanichu, Kora Zanachu, Kasia, E, Gatche, and then the Wichita, Dashi, Desi, Nirish, Hari, Ski, Riki, Mooney, Tashash, Tawatsky, and Gatchet.
Ma-Sep, Mooney, Mosi, Tenkate. Omaha, Pahewakabi, Fletcher and La Flesha. Pawnee, Adauka, Arawaka, Gatschet. Osage, High Shat, La Flesha. Quapaw, Sude, La Harp, Sudi Senti, Dorsey. Tonkawa, Kalusnadshu, Karosnadshu, Kasia, Kasii, Gatschet. Wichita, D and SHI, Da at SA, NIRIS Haris Kiriki, Mooney, Teachash, Tautskash, Gatschet. Asterisk The Choctaw and Creek names and the 2 first Tonkawa terms are corruptions of Caddo Haydaco. The Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Kiowa terms signify pierced noses, and the Caddo were so called because of their custom of wearing nasal ornaments. The gesture indicating them in the sign language refers to the same custom. The Omaha name means Black Pawnee.
Black Pawnee.
Hodge, 1907.
Black
1910.
Pawnee Red Man.
Articles Cadone, Caddo, Caddo Haydaco, Ed, Mooney, 1896, pp. 958, 1000. The following terms are used by the Caddo to designate other tribes: Apache, Kiowa Apache, Kahansi, Mooney, Nsi, Gatschet, Kansi, early writers. Apache, Lipan Soedu, neighbors. Arapaho, Ditsekayat, Muni, dog eaters. Cheyenne, Hakosen, Muni, striped arrows. Comanche, Sathto, Muni, Sautux. Apa, Ima, Gatschat. The Caddo tribes, Figure 1, early in the 17th century, when Caddo came to the attention of French and Spanish explorers and traders for the first time except for the De Soto expedition, most of them were gathered into 3 or 4 loose confederations. The Hasinai, often called Texas by the Spaniards, were the largest of these, occupying the greater part of the land now included in the Texas counties of Nacogdoches, Rusk, Cherokee, and Houston. The Caddo, or Caddo proper, were at the bend of Red River in southwestern Arkansas and northeastern Texas. Between these last two lay a tribe known as Yatasi, which at an earlier day appears to have belonged to still another group, but shortly after first contact with the whites it separated into 2 bands, one of which united with the Caddo and the other with the Nakatosh. Besides these groups there were certain tribes which had an independent status though they were related to the others. The Kahinio lived in a town on the upper Washita in 1687 and in the 16th century had probably been settled along Caddo River and about Caddo Gap, where they became known to the followers of De Soto as Tula Indians. They were, it is believed, closely connected with the Caddo, with whom they undoubtedly ultimately united. The Ade lived in the neighborhood of the present Rabaline, LA, and camped at times along Red River above Nakatosh. They spoke a divergent dialect of Caddo and seemed to have had a ruder culture than the other tribes excepting only the Aish. They had the unique distinction of harboring within their territory the first capital of Texas, and this, curiously enough, fell outside of Texas' later boundaries. The Aish lived almost directly west of the Ade, about the present San Augustine, Tex. They are called barbarous by early writers and were looked down upon by the surrounding Indians. The tribes above enumerated, excepting the 2 last, did not live in groups which maintained the same constituent elements unchanged from generation to generation. Several, as noted in the case of the Yatasi, split into 2 or more divisions which, from time to time, established new associations. These will be noted as we take up the several groups. In the De Soto documents the following tribes or provinces are mentioned which were undoubtedly Caddo, Tula, or May, Nagwatex, Hakanak, Nisahone, Lakane, Nandako, Hais, or Aaes, Sokatino, or Swikatino or Zakadin, Guasco, Nakwiskaka, Nagakahas. Dako is given as the name of a river and the word is undoubtedly from the Caddo language. From the De Soto map we may add Anami and perhaps Seno. The word Tula is probably not from Caddo, but it is believed that the province so named was occupied by the tribe later called Kahinio. Or May seems to contain the Caddo word signifying a male human being. It may have been recorded by the Spaniards from the misunderstanding of an informant. Nagwatex, or, as we should pronounce it, Nawatesh, signifies place of salt, and the people so designated may be set down as a branch of that tribe later known as Nami Dish. Hakanak, which appears but once, may be identical with Lakane, and the latter certainly is a form of Nacanish. The Nisahone or Nisahone were the later Nasoni, the Nandako the later Anadarko, and Hais the later Aish. Guasco appears in a list of Hasinai tribes given by Casafias, but I am unable to identify the Sokatino, Nakwiskaka, and Nakakahas although they bear undoubted Caddo names. Jutel mentions a tribe allied to the Hasinai called Daqueo whose name is possibly related to that of the river Dako. In anime we seem to have Hena, perhaps with May, male person, added. Seno might be an attempt at Hasinai. Born, 1904, Volume 1, pages 135 to 141, 169 to 183, Volume 2, pages 82 to 84, 148, Robertson, 1933, pages 194 to 201, 238,257, map p. 418, Garcilaso, 1723, Final Report of the U.S. De Soto Expedition Commission, 1939, pages 230, 261 to 263, map 1. Jutel in 1687 gives a long list of tribes said to be allied to the Hassanai and another long list of tribes hostile to them. In the first of these I am able to identify the following as Caddo, Jaurtal list identity Sinis Hassanai Nasanai Nasoni Natsohos Nanat Saho Kadodaquis Kata Hadako Nachitos Nakatosh Nandako Anadarko Nadako Anadarko Kainaha Kahinio Nakodisi Nakagdaki Hakai Zayash. Swanton Caddo History and Ethnology 9. The following are possible identifications. Jutel list identity Duis Donka Dusjanai Dachitan people of Bayu Dachite Sakai Sokatino de Quio Dakia River people Nuis Danechas. The following tribes listed as allies were non-Caddo people. Jutel list identity Taniko Tunica Kappa Quapa Tankino Tunica Kasha Kike Nadaman Sadaman, Apache or Tonkawa Anaho Osage Chume Chuman or Shuman, Jumano. The following seem to be Caddo tribes but are listed as enemies. Jutel list identity Nadaho Ade Nakasa Yatasi Nahakasi Yatasi Chayichoy, a tribe placed by Tonti with the Yatasi. The other names either belong to non-Caddo people or cannot be identified. Marjorie, 1875 to 1886, volume 3, pages 409 to 410. Jesus Maria de Casafias, after enumerating the 9 tribes which made up the Hassanai nation, gives another list which partly repeats the first but contains some names which it is difficult to identify with any in his first list, and he adds some new ones, including the tribes of the Caddo group and 2 non-Caddo tribes, the Kike and the Bide. The 2 lists are compared below. First list, second list identity 1. Nabadako or Inisi Nabadaka Nabdake 2. Nicha Nesta Nechas 3. Nichavi 4, Nakano Nakan Naca Nish 5. Nachao Nakas. Nachao 6. Nazadakatsi Nedakatsi. Nakagdaka 7. Kashi Kakso Hana 8. Nabatai Navidi Namidish 9. Nasa Yaha Nasa Yaya Nasoni. Nazones Nasoni Guasco Cad, CF Kakso, Dast once Dustjanai Naden Anadarko Tatavaz Nabai Zakanakiwa Kahinio Kadadakos Kata Hadako Kwaisa Kike, not Caddo, Netsus Nanat Saho Nazatox Nakatosh Bidi Bide, not Caddo, 299671_422. He lists another group of tribes about 80 leagues to the south and west which contains no Caddo names unless the Gwaza are intended for Guasco. Towards the southwest he lists still another, but again it contains no Caddo. In enumerating the tribes at enmity with the Hassanai, however, he gives the Nabatai, Nandako, and possibly the Ayash, Haidix, besides the Osage, Tunica, Quapa, Kike, Quitsix, Tonkawa, Kiawa, Lipan, and probably the Wichita, Kanabatinu, Casafias, 1926, pp. 215 to 216, 1927, pages 286 to 287. In his declaration before the Spanish authorities, Saint Denis, who should have known these Indians well, stated that there were 11 Caddo tribes, the chief of which were the Asina and their allies, the Nabdakos, Nakaus, Namades, Nakadoches, Anis, Nadakokos, Nasitos, and Nachos. The last 2 belonged to the Kata Hadako. The Nadakokos were evidently the Anadarko, and the others are all readily recognizable except that we do not know what tribes were included under the Asina and their allies, though they were perhaps the Nechas and Nasoni. While the greater number of Casafias tribes are identifiable in subsequent lists, there are some which seem to disappear completely after his time. Among these are the Nichavi, but Nakwi, signifying Osage orange, was the native name of Neches River, and this was probably a band of Neches Indians or a synonym for the Neches tribe itself, since both are placed on Neches River not many miles apart. The Nachau may be the Naquisquica of the De Soto Chronicles, but it seems to have disappeared from history at an early date. Bolton thinks that the Nasayaya were a part of the Nasoni. The Guasco are important because of the fact that De Soto's followers met them in 1542. The Cat are not heard of again. They may have been identical with the Caxo and Cashi. The Tatavas and Nabayizat also cannot be identified after this time unless it is possible that the latter is a synonym for Nabdik. We seem to get hints that the complication exhibited by Caddo tribes was late, and that, had we more data regarding them, we should find that there were actually a relatively small number of tribes, and that the complication arose because these had separated into two or more sections, the constituents of which not infrequently changed their associations. One case of the sort is supplied by the Atasi, which divided at a very late date, part settling with the Nakatosh and part with the Caddo Indians. There was also a lower and an upper Nakatosh town connected respectively with the same larger groupings. While the Nasoni formed one town of the Caddo Indians, which sometimes bears their name, there was a second close to the Hassanai but, significantly enough, not rated as a true Hassanai division. Indeed, Bolton, 1908, p. 270, suggests a third which appears under the name Nasayaha or Nasayaya. At least these last live close to the true Nasoni. The Nakano may also have been divided. We hear of a tribe called Nako not reckoned among the true Hassanai but located on a creek called today Nakonicho. A tribe called Lakane was encountered by Moscoso some distance farther east, and it is altogether probable that it was a part of the same people. In other words, it looks as though the Nakano, Nako, Nakonich, and Lakane were fragments of one tribe, and to these may be added Muni's Nakanawan. I was told, indeed, by Caddo Jake that Nakanawan, or Nakahanawan, as he pronounced it, was another name for the Haina, but the Nacanish very likely united with them. It is possible that we should add the Nachau to this list, a tribe which disappears very early in Hassanai history.
Nakachau.
Bolton,
Not
1908, pp. 260 to 261, has demonstrated that the Haina were also called Kashi by Kazanas in his later list referred to as Kaxo, or, possibly Kat. My own informants stated that the Haina had several different names. A tribe early associated with the Hassanai, yet not constituting, according to Kisafias, one of the original group, was the Nadako or Anadarko. It is evidently the one he calls Naden in the list just quoted, and goes back to the time of Moscoso, when we have the name in the form Nandako. It retained its designation until a very late period and gave it finally to Anadarko, Oklahoma. More puzzling than any of these cross-connections is that which is suggested between Kisafia's Nabadako and Nabatai, listed as two of the original Hassanai group. The first of these, usually called Nabdake but spelled more correctly by Kisafias in another place Nabadaka, was located on San Pedro Creek, and it was in the Nabdake town that the first Spanish mission was established. The Nabdake are sometimes called San Pedros. The Nabatai he also calls Navidi, and they are evidently the Nabarai of St. Denis. But Bolton notes that this tribe seems to occupy a spot where Jutel found a tribe called Noatic, and this latter appears to bear the same name as the Nawitic. Of La Harpe, a band of whom was found in 1719 well north of Red River in what is now Oklahoma, Bolton, 1908, p. 270, Margary, 1875 to 1886, volume 6, p. 286, Bahrain, 1831, p. 204. In a French list in a letter by the Duc de Linares, Margary, 1875 to 1886, volume 6, p. 217, we find the form Namides, and knowing that one of the dialectic differences between Eastern and Western Caddo was a change from M to W, and that 6 and V are often used for W in Spanish, we seem to find a family relationship between the names Nabatai, Navidi, Nabarai, Namides, Noatic, for Noadish, and Nawitic. To these must also be added the Nagwatex of the De Soto narratives, which would be transliterated in English as Nawatesh. This does not prove, of course, that these Nabatai Namates people were related to the Nabthak. The names are distinguished in later times, the former meaning place of salt, while the latter is said to be the term for a berry like a blackberry borne on thorny trees. The philologist Gatschet, however, asserts that the ancient name of the Nabthak was Nawadishe, Hodge, 1910, Volume 2, Art. Nabthak, and if his source of information was reliable, the two would appear to be brought together. Such an identification would reconcile two confusing statements by Morphy, 1935, pt1, p82, 1982, p5, one to the effect that the Texas proper inhabited the banks of the San Pedro, though that was the country of the Nabthak when the San Pedro mission was founded, and the other that the Nabthak lived about the head waters of the Neches. It is true that Casafias does not locate his Nabatai on the Neches, but he places them to the north of the other Hassanai towns except the Natico and Nasoni, which lay farther east, and the Nabatai were probably nearer than any others to the headwaters of the Neches River. Undoubtedly we have two tribes called Nabthak and Namadai or Namidish distinguished at a very early period, and it must always remain doubtful whether they stemmed from one original group or whether the resemblance in their names is purely accidental. To sum up, then, we seem to have the following original Hassanai tribes: Hana, Neches, or Nech, Nakagdake, Nakano or Nako or Nakonish, Namidish, Nabatai, or Nawidish, Nasoni, Anadarko, and perhaps Nabthak, two of which, the Nasoni and Anadarko, were not reckoned as original Hassanai tribes, while two others, the Nakano and Namidish, were represented by divisions outside of the Hassanai. The Caddo Indians.
All right, guys. All right. We're going to stop here. I am going to stop. I will come back with the rest of this information. I want you guys to see this map. I'm going to remove my avatar for a minute, and it shows the old map with all the things they were talking about. So I'll be right back before I end it, just so you guys can see the map. All right, guys. I hope you got a good look at that. Peace, love, and bliss to everyone that did come through and show some love and support, and hopefully gain some information. There's certain things I said I'm not going to really get into on YouTube any longer, only because I don't want anyone to, get in their feelings about anything. And I'm just trying to help you guys out. But you guys have my information. If you are interested in any type of assistance, make sure you reach out to me personally in a private matter. Anyone that did inquire about the private group, it will be starting in 2 weeks. I'll be sending an email out in the next couple of days. Make sure that you are checking your email. There are requirements because of certain things. So because of certain privacy and information and things of that nature. So because of that, we are going to get into some very important information. There's a certain timeline I'm trying to get everyone to get this information with, so that we can have things done within at least the next 60 days. There's an assortment of things that need to be done. Most of the people that are in my group have completed most of the steps that they need to go further along, because they've been paying attention and doing what they needed to do. So if you are a person that is still interested in the private group, I do have most people's emails, but man, it's hard to get everyone. Sometimes I skip people. If you guys could send me email and put in the memo private group, put private group, not private screening, any of that. Put private group. Please put private group. It'll make it so much easier for me to find everyone. When I try and go through the list of the different people, some people are asking about certain other things. Some people are asking about different classes. And if you're trying to get in the private group, I have to have the email in the memo to say private group. So when I'm searching for the private group members, I can pull your emails up to send out the notice. That's so important. So I won't put this on members only because I want to make sure that this notice is out. And I will be doing a part 3 to this because there's some deeper information in the book that we did not get to today, but I'm definitely going to make sure that we do that. Okay. So peace, love, and bliss to everyone that came through. As I stated, you guys are the best. Appreciate your support and continue to want to edify your mind and, not be controlled by others' thoughts and things of that nature. People have to be self-determined and have control of themselves in order to have the proper mind state. So I know that I came into the community like just drilling out information, telling people, hey, do this, do this, do that. Some people just are not or were not ready. Anyone that was not ready, I apologize. Maybe you thought you were ready. Maybe I should have vetted you a little bit more. But hey, everything that I do is for the betterment of the people. If your mind is not in the right place, you should not be reaching out to me. If you do not know what's going on, I should not have to explain to you the facts of what's going on. I shouldn't have to explain to you how true this is when I've shown you guys 1,001 times. So make sure that you are tending to what's best for you and your family and not being a part of things that are not beneficial. That's kind of all I can say on that. Peace, love, and bliss to everyone. As I said, until next time, I am out.